Welcome to the Ultimate Power BI Exam DA-100 Prep course, the course that's tailor-made for your DA-100 preparation.
And this topic is all about using Power Query parameters. And this is a feature which is very useful for adding flexibility to your report creation. Basically, you can parameterize any aspect of your data, and by supplying a different value for that parameter, you can then determine the rows of data which will be loaded in each time you use your solution. So this feature is often used in conjunction with templates. When you open a template, if you have parameters defined, Power BI will ask you to supply a different value for each of those parameters. And then that will determine which rows of data are loaded in for that particular use of the template. So in this example, we have a sales report which will focus on a particular branch. So in this card, we have a measure which looks to see whether a single branch is selected. So our formula reads branch title equals selected value staff branch, and then we have an alternate result which is please select A, and then we tag on the word branch. So when we've finished our solution, our title will consist of the name of the branch followed by the word branch, and since we've not yet put that functionality in place, the alternate result kicks in, and we have please select A, followed by the word branch. So please select a branch. So let's now go into transform data and see how this is all set up. And here you'll see we have a solution which contains 5 queries. And all of them are broken because basically the file path in the queries doesn't apply to the machines that we're currently using. So what we can do is to parameterize the data source. We can create a parameter which will store, in this case, the file path, but you can see that if we had a database solution, we could parameterize the name of the database, the name of the database server, or even the name of the tables that we wanted to retrieve data from. To create a parameter, in the Home tab of the ribbon, we click on Manage Parameters, New Parameter, and let's call this parameter File Path. The type will of course be text, and then we've got 3 methods of data entry. Any value means that the user of the solution will have to enter the value or paste it in. List of values, self-explanatory. You can paste in a static list of values here or type them in. And then query will require a list query, a query that returns a list object. And obviously that gives you the chance to have a dynamic solution. So we'll keep it simple and just have any value. And then we need to paste in a current value. So let's grab the path to the workbook on which all these queries are based in our training folder. And you'll find it in the root of the training folder in a subfolder called _data and then sales data. To copy the path, hold down the Shift key, right-click on salesdata.xlsx and choose Copy as Path. Then let's go back to Power Query and paste that path into the current value box. Whenever you use Copy as Path, the system always encloses the path in double quotes. So let's make sure we get rid of the double quotes at the end and at the start. So now we have a parameter which contains a file path, and this will give us a mechanism for updating the file on which all these queries are depending. To implement our parameter, we've got 2 choices. The slow method, which is to click individually on each of the queries and edit the source step by clicking on the cog icon next to source. But of course, we'll have to do that for all queries. So the global method of making this change is to click on Data Source Settings. And here we simply need to change our source. But we're not simply changing it from one file path to another, we're changing the nature of the source. We want to change it from a file path, from a string, into a parameter. And we do that by clicking on this drop down and choosing parameter. And you'll notice for convenience, you've also got the facility of creating a new parameter at this point. So we'll choose parameter, and then of course at this point in time we only have one parameter to choose from, our file path parameter. When we click OK and close, all our queries should now be fixed, because they're pointing to the correct data source for the machines that we're using. So that's our first parameter implemented. Now let's create a parameter which we can apply to the branch. So again, manage parameters, new parameter, and we'll call this one branch. The type will be text, and again, to keep it simple, we'll have any value, which means we have to enter the value manually, and we'll type London as our branch. And in this solution, the branch is stored in the staff table. So let's scroll across to the branch column, and of course to implement our parameter, we'll need to apply it as a filter. So we choose text filters equals, but instead of typing a value, we switch from text to parameter and then choose our branch parameter. So whatever we have in that parameter will determine the filter that's applied to the branch column. So I typed London, so only those salespeople at London will be loaded into this solution. If I go back into the branch parameter and change the current value to Manchester, when I go back to my staff table, only those people at the Manchester branch will be loaded. Now, of course, the staff table is one of our dimension tables. The main table, the one that we're analyzing, is the sales table. So any filter we apply to staff will also have to be applied to sales, because obviously at this point in time, every single row in the sales table is being loaded. So we'll need to make sure that whatever we've done to the staff table has an impact on which sales rows are loaded. And we can do this by using merge queries. So our second table will be staff, and the common column between the two is of course staff ID. And for the join kind, we want inner only matching rows. So we only want to retain those rows in the sales table which are also found in our staff table. And then we click OK, and then Power BI now knows that it needs to suppress all rows in the sales table which are not also found in our staff table. When we use the merge queries command, Power BI creates a column representing the table that you're merging with, and if you want to, you can expand this column and then pull in columns from the other table. And of course on this occasion that's not what we need. What we need has been achieved. We've suppressed the rows which have no corresponding staff ID in a staff table, so we can simply remove this extra column. And now let's close and apply. So our current parameter value is, as you can see, the Manchester branch. And here in the transform data drop-down, we have the ability to edit parameters. So you'll see both of my parameters are available. I can change my file path, or I can change my branch to Liverpool. And when I click OK, I then need to apply changes since I haven't had the chance to click on close and apply. and Power BI then updates the staff and sales tables. And we can also export a template from this file. To do that, we go to File, Export, Power BI Template, Description, Sales Report, based on a single branch. And let's save that in the number 1 folder with exactly the same file name, but obviously it now has a different extension, PBIT as opposed to PBIX. And now let's use our template. So we'll close the original file, the PBIX version. Come out of sales data, go back into the root of our training folder, into number 1, and here you'll see we've got the original PBIX, and then we have the PBIT file. So let's open the PBIT. And as usually happens when you open a template, the original template is not opened. This is now a copy of the template, which we can then go on to save as an ordinary PBIX file. So let's set our branch to Glasgow, and then let's grab the file path once more. So it's in the root, data, sales data, hold down the Shift key, right click on sales data, and copy as path. Then we can just paste in our path and get rid of the double quotes at the end and the beginning. And then we simply click on load. So we now have a report for the Glasgow branch, and we can just keep reusing this one template to create a report focusing on any branch. So let's now save this file. And I'm just going to call it Glasgow Sales Report. And it's now an ordinary PBIX file. And finally, let's publish it into the Power BI service. So I'll publish it into the Report Central workspace we created earlier. And the final thing I want to show you is how you can change the value of the parameter when you're in the Power BI service. We click on the ellipsis next to the name of the dataset and choose Settings. And if it's an on-premises data source, we will need to set up a gateway connection. But the thing I wanted to show you here is parameters. So any dataset that has parameters, when you click, you can simply go into the settings and then change the parameters. So from the Power BI service, I can go in here and type a different branch name, and if necessary, a different file path, and then apply. And then, of course, I would need to have a gateway in order to be able to pull in the information for that particular branch. And that should be everything you need to know about templates for the exam DA-100.
Passing the DA-100 could be just a ticket for landing your next job in BI or analytics. It helps you stand out from the crowd, and this course is all you'll need to be confident of passing. So sign up for the course now, and you'll sail through your DA-100 exam with no problems at all.